Hello Science Fam. Today we're working on percent composition. And to do that, the percent composition that we're looking for is simply just going to be the mass of the one specific element we're looking at, and that's going to be divided by the total mass of the compound. And to do that, we're just going to use the masses off of the periodic table. All right? So if you look here at methylamine, right, we have carbon, 3 hydrogens, 1 nitrogen, and 2 hydrogens as well. So there's 1 carbon, there's 5 hydrogens, and there's 1 nitrogen. We can figure out the mass of all of those by just looking at the periodic table. On your periodic table, we know that carbon's mass is about 12.01 atomic mass units. Remember, we use AMUs when we're talking about individual elements off the periodic table. We'll work with grams and heavier masses when we start using things in the lab, but for right now we're looking at the individual compound itself. Now for hydrogen, since there's 5 of them, each hydrogen is about 1.01 atomic mass units. So 5 times that gives you about 5.05 atomic mass units. For nitrogen, if you look at nitrogen off the periodic table, its mass is about 14.01 atomic mass units. All right? So if we add up all of those masses, the 12.01, 5.05, and 14.01, you end up getting a total mass, and let me write that, total. The total mass is around 31.07 atomic mass units. All right, now that we have that, we can figure out our percent composition by just simply following our equation. All right, so if we want to find the percent of carbon, to do that, we're going to put percent carbon, and we're going to take, as we said from our equation, the specific mass of that element. So since there's only 1 carbon in this compound, the total mass of all carbons is 12.01. We are then going to divide that by the total mass of the compound. Remember, we found the total mass of the compound earlier, so we just put that on the bottom. Now, since we're making this a percent and we want it to look nice, don't forget we just like to multiply by 100. But when we do that, when you take 12.01 divided by 31.07 and multiply it by 100, you end up getting about 38.65%. Try that out and see if you get that, right? Now, for our percent hydrogen, to find that, and I'm going to do that down here just to make room for my work. My percent hydrogen, I need to take the total mass of hydrogen. So when we look at that, we found that already. That's 5.05 atomic mass units. All right, and we're going to divide it by the total mass of the compound, which is 31.07. Don't forget, we want to multiply that by 100 just to get that into nice decimal form. But when you do 5.05 divided by 31.07 and multiply it by 100, you end up getting about 16.3%. So that means, by mass, 16.3% of this compound is made of hydrogen. All right, let's do the very last one then. The last remaining is nitrogen. Now, you could do this a couple ways. You could say that, well, all of these elements' percents added up is going to be 100%. So if you took 100 and you subtract hydrogens, 16.3, and you also subtract carbons, 38.65, that would give you the remaining percent, which should be nitrogens. All right? But I'm going to do it the old school way just to double check and to make sure everything's looking good. If I want to find the percent of nitrogen, all right, I know that the total mass of nitrogen in this compound is 14.01 atomic mass units, and the total mass of this compound is 31.07, and I'm going to multiply that by 100 to get in proper decimal form. So if I do 14.01 divided by 31.07 multiplied by 100, I end up getting about 45.09%. Now, with a little bit of rounding in that, it's not always perfect, but you can always double check and say, all right, is 38.65 plus 16.3 plus 45.09, does that come around to adding up to about 100%, and yes, it does. So it's very close, so therefore this looks like good work. All right, but percent composition, again, is helpful. It can tell you what percent of mass is each element in the compound, and from there you can actually figure out what the compound is, and we'll look into that. Now that we know how to find percents, we can take that and reverse that and eventually figure out what compound that is, and we'll call that empirical formulas, and we'll deal with that soon. But hopefully this was a good example problem for you that helped you out. Should be pretty straightforward. As long as you can find the masses and divide by the total compound's mass, you should be able to find it. All right, be well, science family, and see you soon.